Same hoodie as yesterday because I'm on dad duty, so no judgment. Now, I did want to talk to you guys about this technical analysis we're about to do for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, and AMD, because some signals here, some structure here is really showing that we could see some bullishness. So first, we're going to go through how we reacted with these daily expected moves today, and then we're going to make the new ones so you guys get those for tomorrow. On the SPY here, you'll notice that we have the old ones, meaning the one that were happening today as of Tuesday. So we had that 502.26 and we had 496.42 to the downside. And we really were paying attention to this live for the SPY and the Qs. We were really watching it live. Thank you so much if you did tune into my live video. We're going to be doing that again tomorrow morning. Okay, so put that in your calendar. I'm going to start making it so you can publish it before so that you can kind of get notified when that video is actually coming out. So turn those notifications on. Now, what we were noticing was we started to break down and we start to hesitate right around that daily expected move. That's what makes these so powerful. That's what makes the weekly very powerful as well. So what we wanted to pay attention to, I was overall stating, okay, now during the live video, we're getting this to come down pretty rapidly. Wait for this 5 on the 5-minute to catch up. If we can retake that, we could see that bullishness come back in and land back within this zone like we do 68% of the time. So you notice that we did get that reaction up. We went off of the live stream and then we saw a breakdown, but that gave us a little 5-minute divergence, which got us close to positive territory. So what's actually forming in front of you, notice that we have retaken the 5, right? And then we see that come up. We bounce back down and we retake it again. This was overall what we were talking about. We're getting that 5 on the 5-minute to curl back up and retaking it, right? We're testing below it and getting above it again. It's a very good sign. And now we're setting up some kind of head and shoulders on the 5-minute. Now, this can be, we had a lot of selling, okay? So I want you to pay attention to the actual expected moves, but this is overall what we were looking at today and what you can look for while paying attention to these daily expected moves. If you do like the 5-minute chart, is for this 5-day to curl back up. And then we kind of, if we get that to curl back up, you really want that price to come up above it, retest it, and then go again. That's really what you're looking for with these daily expected moves. We're going to go back to the SPY in a moment and give you those updated daily ranges, but overall the Qs did a similar thing. We saw 434.35 to the upside and 426.69 to the downside, and this is how the Qs were actually selling off pretty good, and we saw this slight tapering here, and then we got that reaction, and this is where we were really saying, hey, these risk ranges, they can turn into once you break through them, they can turn into resistance. So originally you can use them as support, and then if you break through them, you can see them as resistance. And that's exactly what happened right as we hopped off of the stream. We saw that come in as resistance. We beat down a little more. We get a little 5-minute divergence. We're able to get into positive territory. So we see that positivity continue. Now we also got that little pullback we're talking about, and now we're pushing again to the upside. So it really does look like we're setting up for maybe a bullish day tomorrow. But we have to be careful because we did see some pretty good selling today. We have to pay attention to that. Now we do see that similar thing. We have a little bit of a head and shoulders here. Now this could go a little bit deeper, but as we did just take out the top side here, maybe we do get some kind of move upward, get a retest, and then start going up, maybe to fill this gap. But it is pretty cool to see. We saw it break down. We saw that divergence outside of it on a 5-minute, which is something we were talking about. Now, some of those divergences can go the wrong way on you. It doesn't happen every time, but we do land within this zone 68% of the time, and this was one of those deals. So when you do see price get outside of this, these are the types of things that you can look for to see some kind of bounce. We see that momentum dying out, and then we see that buying come back in the market, and now we're in positive territory, which means we can invite more positivity going into tomorrow. Right now, I do have the 30-minute chart up. Okay, so we're going to pay attention to those new daily expected moves. So for tomorrow, your daily expected move to the upside, $500.68, and then to the downside, we're going to have $492.80. And you notice it's kind of hard to see. That's because the weekly and the daily move for tomorrow, or the weekly for this week, the bottom side of it, and the daily expected move for tomorrow are actually right in the same area. Okay, so if we do see price come down to there, we can use both of those as some support because that's all that options have priced in for the day tomorrow, and that's all options have priced in for the week. So if we do get a little bit down towards this, look for some reaction there. We could get some support. Now, if we do see some more dramatic selling, this is something we talked about on the live video. Once we get outside of that, if we use it as resistance, we actually can see one of those 32% times where we get a little bit more selling, okay? But it really does look like this MACD might want to curl up. We'll have to pay attention to tomorrow morning, see if it's actually able to get into positive territory. If it does, you have a very good likelihood of filling this gap. Really, I would say upside, if we're going to get a new high or something like that, we'd really need to see some positivity and get past a lot of resistance. We have resistance here with the daily expected move. We have resistance with the monthly. We have gap resistance, right? And then we also have these highs up here that have held pretty strong as of right now. So we have to pay attention to that. We do still run the risk of some kind of ABC pattern. And where would that put us? That would still put us outside of this range. So we actually would go outside of the weekly expected move. So I'm not necessarily leaning towards that at this point, but we have to be open to it because we saw some pretty good selling today. The Qs, the daily expected move for tomorrow is going to be 433.17 to the upside, and we have 421.47 to the downside. Right by that bottom of the weekly expected move, we have the daily expected move down there as well. So this could mean that we're actually going to get some more selling into tomorrow, and then we get that momentum to die out, and with some good news, we can get some kind of bounce. The only thing I would point out right now is we actually do have a 30-minute divergence right here, and it did just confirm. So if this is able to crawl back into positive territory, we could see some further positivity. We could even pass by this gap. We could start going a little bit higher. Be a little worried if we get outside of this early on in the day. If this is buying very, very quickly, if we keep going, that could be some kind of rug pull coming with FOMC, coming with earnings. So tomorrow we do have the FOMC minutes, so we have to pay attention to that during the day. That's going to be 1 p.m. Central Time or 2 hours before close. And then we do have Nvidia earnings after hours. So really tomorrow we do have a bigger range on the Qs. We're going to have a bigger range on the Qs all week because of that news that's coming out with Nvidia, with FOMC minutes. So we want to pay attention very closely to all these tech stocks. The other thing I would say is, we got this to cross. Is it actually able to get into positive territory, or is this going to be just some kind of gap fill, maybe come up to that daily expected move and then drop off? So really pay attention if this is able to really get into positive territory, or if it's actually rolling over in negative. That means that this negative trend is most likely going to continue. One thing I'll give you, okay, when the Qs actually do get this to turn, right, we got this to cross. Now I can pull up a 2 hour and see if this is actually able to cross. This is kind of like your double confirmation at this point, because we do have somewhat of a head and shoulders that just broke down. Now we did buy back above this base here, so that's good news for the bulls. See if this 2 hour is able to curl up, and maybe we get another point of reference, and this bullish run extends a little bit higher. I just wanted to tell you about that. Once you do see that 30-minute divergence, it's very good to pull up a 2 hour and see if that is crossing over. It's kind of like a double confirmation of what you're seeing right here. Apple so far, I'm going to give you a thumbs up and a pat on the back. If you were subscribed and you did find this info helpful, give yourself a pat on the back, because we are stating how this could roll over and create some kind of divergence, and we have a 2 hour divergence between these lows here. So we have a 2 hour divergence here, and then we have that 30-minute divergence now right here. And I told you I would notify you about that. We go over this in my course. There's something that I think, I can't remember what I called it. I'm pretty sure it's like the golden setup, and this setup here is just missing one thing from my course, but we'll get into that one other day. So we do have this steep divergence down here on the 30-minute. That means that it could roll over this 2 hour. So if this 2 hour is able to roll over, you'll notice we have a divergence down here as well, and we have divergences on the RSI and the recent price action. So we could see some strength. Now, if this 2 hour is able to actually roll over with that divergence, the confirmation of this 2 hour divergence really going higher is going to be this daily rolling over. So we do have the potential in Apple for the daily to roll over and maybe get into positive territory if all goes well this week. We can have all the divergences in the world. We can see this 2 hour divergence get some strength, but then we could get some bad news with the FOMC minutes. We could get some bad news with Nvidia earnings. So be very, very careful looking for trades throughout this week, because it really depends on that news we get tomorrow and after hours tomorrow. Amazon, we were talking about this range here, right? We were talking about this range that we've been in for a little bit, and we've seen some hip fire moves out of it. Now we got another move out of it, but it looks like it's just retesting that channel we've been in for a long time, and we could see some positivity come in. The reason I'm saying we could see some positivity come in is just because we actually do have divergence down here. So you have a pretty good divergence down here on the MACD, and that matches up right here with the RSI. It just tells me that the 2 hour for Amazon could roll up and we could get some positivity, maybe to fill this gap or to test this high. So it's just something we really want to pay attention to. We did not get below or close below the lowest wick. So we were able to hold up, and maybe we actually come up into this area, get a handle, and then start going a little higher. Now, if we were going to go down from here, then we would maybe get some kind of bounce here and then use this again as some resistance and then head lower because we are in negative territory. So right now we are technically in a negative trend. If we get a pop and it's not able to fully get into positive territory or rolls over pretty quick, we will see more negativity come in, and most likely we are heading towards this gap fill. So it's just it's still a time to pay attention to both sides, but we are actually seeing some bullish setups before tomorrow. Tesla, we were paying attention to live, and we still think it's got a good chance to come up here because it was able to buy back up. And the funny part is this 190.10 we've had marked off for a long time actually became important today, right around that 200 on the 30-minute. So it became important, and overall we were stating, hey, you know, we're seeing some selling come in, but this zone right in here is going to be very important. If we're able to retest this zone and then see that bullishness, we could be getting a little ABC pattern to the upside here. With this little push here, we could get another push of that length up into this area, which gets us right into our zone. Okay, so we do have a gap up here that we need to fill. So we could get some resistance up here. This is where some dramatic selling came in last time. So this could be a good area for the sellers to jump back in on Tesla if we see that bullishness tomorrow. Now, the other thing I just wanted to mention was we're still in negative territory. So if this is just some kind of flagging right now and then we see that roll over, good chance we're going to test the previous low. So if this wants to roll up on the MACD and roll right back over, we could actually see a sell-off that brings us down to test some of these lows down here. Last thing on Tesla, this is exactly how you want a stock to come out of a reverse head and shoulders, right? We have the left, we have the head, we have the right shoulder. We had a baseline here. Sure, we dipped a little bit below that, but we just reached into a little area that seemed important right in here. Grab some buyers, and if those buyers really get committed tomorrow, we can see that extension. So I just wanted to warn you. People say I'm bearish all the time, but when I do see bullish setups, I will call them out, but I will give you the bear case too. If this is just some kind of feeble bounce and we roll back over, you're going to be in negative territory and we're going to go lower. Nvidia has some ground to make up tomorrow. Now this is good that we're starting to swing higher, but you'll notice we are way down here in negative territory. So be very patient with Nvidia, see if it's able to get into positive territory tomorrow. And just be careful trading around these earnings. I know I'm saying it every video, but learn from my mistakes, right? So when I traded Zillow earnings, it did not go very well for me. We talked about this on the live video a lot because people were talking about Nvidia. And even if this thing goes up, I just wanted to mention one thing that we said on the live video. We've said this in the past. If you're a pretty long time subscriber for the past few months, you might have heard me say this. This is another one of my rules. Not only do I not trade around earnings, but I also don't trade, I don't take calls on a stock that just crossed on the daily MACD to the downside, and the other way around. I don't actually take puts on a stock that just crossed on the daily to the upside. So it's just no matter what the stock looks like, I've been beat up by this before, so I do not trade around earnings, and I do not trade buying calls on a stock where the MACD has just crossed to the downside. That being said, this could just be a test of the 20, and we could see some positivity come in tomorrow. We could see a positivity come in with the earnings itself. Now, the thing with the earnings will be, you know, what if this isn't actually the value that people see in Nvidia? What if 800 is all they see as value in Nvidia, and then they start to hit the sell button to take profit? Well, if that happens and enough people do it, we'll see a big red bar in something like SMCI where the selling could really pile on really fast. So overall, it's just, we kind of talked about this from a risk to reward perspective. If you just look at the Bollinger Bands, your reward here is somewhere around 764. Your risk is the fact that you could go all the way down to 573. So it's just a time to be like, hey, maybe I need to be a little patient and wait for this to set up, wait for a little bit more of a beat down before I swing trade this thing. If this actually does beat down and then curl back up, well, we're going to see that curl back up in positive territory, and there's a good chance we either test this high or, depending on the narrative of the FOMC, it could create some kind of lower high. So it's just something to pay attention to, but this is a short-term pullback probably. because we are seeing a lot of stocks set up some bullishness for tomorrow, and we'll have to see what they actually produce numbers-wise and what the FOMC says. AMD, pretty cool. We were stating how we had this little bit of a trend here, and if we lost that, we most likely will head to the bottom of our triangle. That's exactly what happened as of now. We are deep in negative territory, so you see how these stocks like AMD, SMCI, Nvidia, they all have a very long way to go to get back into positive territory. So you have to be cautious with any kind of bounces because those could just roll over. This could actually be some kind of head and shoulders at this point to create a right shoulder, and then we see this start to break down. So you have to be very cautious. I would really wait for a lot of these stocks to actually get into positive territory. And honestly, I'd be waiting to see what the actual numbers are with the Nvidia earnings after hours tomorrow. The VIX was something we were bringing up on the live video as well. We were mainly saying in our actual YouTube video yesterday, hey, we might come fill this gap, but I think we might actually see some more positivity come in after we do so. Right now, we're hesitating at this area, and if I actually pull up a 15-minute, you're going to see some extreme divergence, and we're about to possibly go into negative territory on the VIX, which could mean that positivity could come in tomorrow morning. So we have to pay attention to that, and then if that positivity is very positive in the morning, be cautious around that FOMC minutes, all right? Now, if the FOMC minutes produces something that's not the best sounding for the market, but Nvidia produces good earnings, we actually could see the market go up, and then we could see a post-Fed sell-off. When I pull up this 30-minute here, really what I was paying attention to on the 30-minute, and now I think I'm going to switch it actually to a 2-hour, is if what we look like when we fill this gap. So I'm just going to tackle that when it actually gets down here. If it does, I think this gap down here could be important, and we might see one more reaction down here before we get volatility to fully come back into this market. I think it might be some euphoria with the Nvidia earnings, and then people will be kind of snap back to reality like we talked about when the FOMC says, once again, we are not going to cut rates in March. You still want to pay attention to what the overall FOMC minutes is saying, but TLT here kind of saying that we do have some divergence down here and we could lead to rolling over this daily, okay? So we actually could roll back up from this area. So really we're just waiting for this to actually cross and then get into positive territory. One thing with the FOMC, if we do hear them saying that they are going to actually cut rates, that might be good news initially, but usually if the FOMC randomly flips and they are actually going to cut rates now when they said they weren't going to, that could mean that they know something in the system is breaking. Most of the time when they have to flip the script and cut rates really fast, that means something in the system is already broken or is breaking and they are trying to stop that from happening, which if history tells us it always ends up happening and it's bad for the market. So we could see a surge in the stock market with some of those rate cuts narratives, but it is most likely going to be a buy the rumor, and then when it actually happens, it will be a sell the news event. So just be aware of that. I don't think they're going to flip the script. They don't flip the script very often. So I believe they are just going to hold firm on the, hey, we are going to cut rates by 75 basis points by the end of the year. We saw that tick up in the CPI, so we just aren't going to cut rates in March. So the main takeaway here is we actually look like we have some setups for a bullish day tomorrow, but is that going to continue when we get FOMC minutes? And then is that going to continue on Thursday when we get Nvidia earnings? There's just a lot of is it going to continues out there because we have two very big events that really it doesn't matter what the structure of stock looks like. If both of these events are bad news for the market, we're most likely going to see selling. If both are good news, we're most likely going to see buying. And I truly believe if the FOMC brings out a similar statement that they've said in the past, but we do get good Nvidia earnings, then we could see more positivity and then get some kind of rug pull later down the line with maybe a post-Fed sell-off. Okay, so there's a lot to pay attention to, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining my live video. Make sure to smash that like button if you are enjoying those daily expected moves, because that's going to tell me to keep doing them more regularly for you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good night and all the luck in the world trading tomorrow. Peace.